all just take a second to talk about how cool voice acting is? There are many people who like to degrade this niche of the profession by saying that voice actors only give half a performance and that the only reason they do animation or video games or the like is because they're not good enough to be in front of the camera. Of course, if you're watching this video, you are probably in the same mind of me in saying that that's all ignorant bullshit. On the contrary, I believe that voice acting is just as hard, if not more so, than acting on screen, albeit for different reasons. The profession is a very isolating one. With very rare exceptions, most voice acting is done by yourself, in a booth, with only the script and no scene partners to work off of. And in recent years especially, these recording booths are in the actors' own homes rather than in a studio, offering all sorts of distractions and interruptions that otherwise wouldn't be there. While they sometimes have animation or storyboards to give them an idea of what is happening, some voice actors literally have no reference other than what the director tells them. And at least in anime dubbing, the actors are only given scripts with their specific lines, so again, they have no context for what they're saying outside of the direction. And that's not even counting the fact that most dub actors are given the scripts the day of and are reading off them cold turkey. And finally, among so many other things I have no time to list, voice actors have the incredibly difficult job of breathing life into mere drawings and sketches and clay figures. In oftentimes tiny, dark, solitary booths, they have to give believable enough performances to convince us as the audience that something we know for a fact is not real, is. A while back, I made my list of my top 10 favorite anime dub performances of all time. Some of you may have been expecting me to do my top favorite Japanese performances next, and that video will come eventually, but I wanted to stew on them a little bit more, so I thought instead to hop into my favorite performances from Western animation. I'm basically following the same rules as I did last time, where there will be 10 performances on this list ranked in no particular order, and I've only allowed myself to pick one actor per show or film. The only difference is that in the last video, I divided them between female actresses and male actors. This time, I'm dividing them between female characters and male characters. You'll gauge why later in the video. Please keep in mind, I have not seen every animated piece of media known to man, and just because I put one performance on this list over another, that doesn't mean any other performances in these pieces of media are any lesser, and this is all subjective. I am not saying these are objectively better than so many other performances that are going to be left off this list. They're just my favorites, and I just wanted to share them with you. So, without further ado, let me introduce you to the first one.
I'll turn him into a flea. A harmless little flea. And then I'll put that flea in a box. And then I'll put that box inside of another box. And then I'll nail that box to myself. And when it arrives, I'll smash it with a hammer!
EARTHA KITT as Yzma from The Emperor's New Groove. I feel like if this isn't in your personal list of top 10 Disney movies, then there is something legitimately wrong with you. The cast for this film is just... God, how can I sing their praises more than so many others have? Most, if not all, fans of Emperor's New Groove like to proclaim Patrick Warburton's Kronk as the star of the show. And while I don't necessarily disagree with that to any stretch, I gotta give credit where it's due and shout out EARTHA KITT. For those who are unfamiliar with her many, many accomplishments outside of the film, she had a very iconic and successful acting and singing career spanning from the 1950s to her death in 2008. You remember that cheesy 1960s Batman series with Adam West? She was Catwoman in that. Oh, and that Christmas song Santa Baby that you probably know because of Taylor Swift and or Michael Bublé? She originated it back in 1953. Additionally, she had many accolades spanning from the Tonys to the NAACP. Honestly, it was probably because of her prolific singing career that got her involved with The Emperor's New Groove in the first place. Because before it turned into the buddy road trip comedy we know it as today, it was originally supposed to be a more traditional musical called Kingdom of the Sun. In that version of the film, Yzma was also a more traditionally threatening Disney villain performing a song called Snuff Out the Light, which is a bop, but I'm not going to play it here because I'm terrified of copyright. It's available on YouTube if you're curious. Even in the non-musical version of the film we got, though, KITT shows off all of her strengths and is just a ball of fun to listen to. Deviating from the original concept and most villains that came before her in the Disney Renaissance, KITT's comedic prowess with Yzma fits perfectly with her co-stars, working off Warburton so well to the point that they're not only the best part of the film, but arguably one of the best Disney duos of all time. Simultaneously, she managed to still be very threatening when she wants to be, acting as a truly frightening obstacle for Kuzco and PUGH to face. You can just feel the passion and love that KITT had for this role, which is only amplified by knowing that not only was she attached to the production from the beginning, but she also reprised her role for The Emperor's New School. Oh yeah, remember that show? Like I said, the actress ended up passing away in 2008, with the aforementioned series being one of her last performances. And while it's sad, I'm really glad that this performance introduced her to a whole other generation after her major successes in the 50s and 60s. And as we all know, being in a Disney film kinda makes you immortal. So hopefully there are many other generations who will come to know her amazing name and work.
A true, selfless act always sparks another.
Well, look who's suddenly a chatterbox. Tell me, what made you squander all those words into that nugget of wisdom?
Oh, just something someone used to say.
Our second performance is J.K. Simmons as Klaus. There are a lot of good voice performances of Santa Claus out there. You have the classic Mickey Rooney from the Rankin Bass shorts, and until this film, my favorite rendition was Alec Baldwin's North in Rise of the Guardians. Equally so, there are just as many enjoyable voice performances from J.K. Simmons, from Ford in Gravity Falls to Tenzin in The Legend of Korra. And no matter what project he's in, he gives absolutely 1,000,000% every time, and this film was no exception. Klaus is, bar none, my favorite Christmas movie, with this actor playing a large part in that. Both he and the story just always make me feel warm and fuzzy inside, and just fill me with hope for humanity and goodness, and this film is a masterpiece. Anyway, I think what I really like about Simmons' performance is how nuanced he makes Klaus. While half of it is due to the fantastic writing, the actor makes sure that the character is far from two-dimensional or one-note. You have Mickey Rooney's Kris Kringle, who is endearingly and cheerfully naive and will be very jovial about chastising you if need be. And then you have, say, Santa from The Nightmare Before Christmas, who is understandably rather negative and rude whenever we see him. Meanwhile, Simmons makes sure that Klaus doesn't just swing one way or the other. At his core, he is a very quietly kind, shy, and optimistic man, but he also gets grief-stricken and annoyed and angry, no, furious, and very loudly so. This performance was the first to convince me that Santa Claus could have been a real person, because he just feels real. And like I said, the screenwriters got the ball rolling, but the character and film would not be what they are without Simmons. Honestly, I think he is one of the greatest examples of what it means to be a voice actor. It's not about how many weird sounds you can make with your vocal cords or how high or low you can pitch yourself. Those things can certainly help. It's about doing the character and the story you're telling justice. And that's just what acting is. Voice acting, above all else, is just acting. J.K. Simmons may sound the same in whatever he's in, but he always does what is right for the role. And that is what makes him one of the greats.
I can see your whole history in your eyes. You were born with nothing, so you've had to struggle and connive and claw your way to power. But true power, the divine right to rule, is something you're born with.
Like, duh. You'll find that I'm gonna be a broken record with the fact that many of the actors on this list are gems in already stacked ensembles. Among all of the brilliant performances in Avatar, many fans, myself included, like to prop up all of the Fire Nation characters as the best of the bunch. Dante Bosco, Mako, and Mark Hamill all give some of the best acting of their careers, but today belongs to Badass Ladies because Grey DeLisle as Azula stands at the top of all of them. As soon as we're introduced to the Fire Nation princess, the actress does a brilliant job at vocally setting the character apart from Zuko and Iroh. Even though the two of them had been the main antagonists up to that point, Bosco and Mako make them feel very real and human throughout Book 1, displaying a softness to them that allows us to connect with them. Meanwhile, Delisle immediately creates an intimidating and ruthless air around Azula, while still carrying a regal and intelligent disposition that sets her apart from Zuko's foil Zhao in the first season. Her and Mark Hamill even sound like they could be related with their higher and thinner tones, and that added with her cruel nature definitely makes you go, yep, that's his daughter all right. Of course, as the series goes on, we do get to see different facets of Zuko's younger sister, all of which the actor portrays perfectly. Writing and performance-wise, Zuko alone and The Beach are great episodes that give the audience insight into her character, but I definitely agree that her breakdown throughout Sozin's Comet is truly the pinnacle of Delisle's talent. There are many people that have dissected and applauded her work in these 4 episodes much better than I ever could, but it would be a crime to not bring it up. From Azula pushing everyone away after being betrayed by her best friends, to hallucinating her mother knowing her father has also left her behind, to her absolutely heartbreaking sobs and throat-ripping screams after the last Agni Kai. The actress's voice gradually slipping into despair and paranoia and anger is some of the most masterful in animation. Then again, everything before that is just as so. I think most people can agree that Azula is one of the best antagonists ever to be put to paper, and I can say without a doubt that she would not be the icon that she is if not for Great Delisle. God, I think it's time for me to go rewatch Last Airbender now.
I learned 2 things that day. 1, I was never going to let anyone see that they got to me.
And 2?
If the world's only gonna see a fox as shifty and untrustworthy, there's no point in trying to be anything else.
Jason Bateman as Nick Wilde from Zootopia. This is another film that's within my top 10 from Disney, and it's not for the reasons you think, get your mind out of the gutter. I'm a huge sucker for characters that got dealt a bad deal by the world and grew cynical because of it, but are still kind at heart and want to see the good in things. I'm gonna be honest in that I've never seen any of Bateman's other work besides this, but you know what? I'm fine with that, because I've made the very objective decision that this is the best of his filmography. His tone manages to carry such heavy sarcasm while being incredibly soothing at the same time. Honestly, the perfect combo for a con anthropomorphic fox. His laid-back delivery matched with Ginnifer Goodwin's optimism and energy as Judy is a winning combination, once again creating a very enjoyable Disney duo. Their discussion on the Sky Rail and the confrontation at the precinct especially are my favorites between the two of them. You know what? Fuck it. I would have been attracted to him if he were a human. He just would have been a more modern-day Flint Rider. You can't deny it. There, I said it. Is it weird? Who can say? Okay, weird, slightly furry questions aside, if you haven't watched Zootopia, or at least haven't checked it out in a while, I highly recommend that you give it another watch. Not even taking Bateman's performance into account, it's still such a phenomenal film with a message that is still very much prevalent in the present day. Needless to say, it and Nick will always be one of my faves.
Hello, missus. We're looking for a cat. This cat. We've got an offer for him.
Our 5th and newest performance is Florence Pugh as Goldilocks from Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. The brilliance of this film really just came out of fucking nowhere, didn't it? If you didn't rush to theaters to see this after the scores of raving reviews and memes, then there is something wrong with you. There are so many incredible renditions of just as enjoyable characters in this movie, and while I do want to shout out Wagner Moura as Death, cause oh my god, I've got to give it to my girl Goldie. And look, am I one of those people who saw Greta Gerwig's Little Women and have been obsessed with Florence Pugh ever since? Yes. Yes, I am. But I promise there's more to this pick than that. Building on the bare foundation of the fairy tale, the story and actress both do an insane job of really getting us to care about Goldie right off the bat and really sympathize with her internal struggle concerning her wish. Additionally, Pugh has such charming chemistry with Olivia Colman, Ray Winstone, and Samson Kayo as the 3 bears that brings pure joy to my heart every time they're all on screen. Also, I just love the accent. It scratches my ears in just the right place. Her performance, the design, and the script just meld in perfect harmony and create a truly kick-ass and heartfelt character to act as a secondary protagonist. Antagonist. Personist. I've said it to just about everyone in my life, and I'll say it to you now. Watch Puss in Boots: The Last Wish. Watch it. Watch it now.
I don't know your people or rituals or what you think you're running from, but I know you. I know you care about others. That's what makes a great leader. Kiki, I believe in you.
Liam O'Brien as Vax from The Legend of Vox Machina. My roommate sat me down to watch this series in January with the release of season 2, and as expected, it and Critical Role quickly became my newfound hyperfixation. Even quicker than that, however, was how I fell head over heels for Vax'ildan, and much more so than the rest of the performances on this list, an extremely large part of that is due to his actor Liam O'Brien. If you are somehow unfamiliar with Critical Role, they are a group of voice actors, many of whom you are probably definitely familiar with, who have been streaming their homebrew D&D campaigns for just about 8 years now. Vox Machina was the first of now 3 campaigns, and with the show being an adaptation of their game, that means, in addition to portraying their characters, they created them and heavily influenced their stories as well. While I love the entire group with all my heart, I had a special connection with Vax from the onset. I distinctly remember when it happened, too. It was in episode 3 when he's doing his rogue shit at the gala while trying to snoop on the Briarwoods, and I just watched how smooth he was with his hair up and the suit, and I just muttered to my friend through my teeth, God, he's so fucking hot. And listen, my thirstiness is not the only reason he's here, okay? But you cannot deny that he is a sexy, sexy man, and O'Brien's deep British accent does not help matters.
All it takes is a little finesse. Amateurs.
I'm not going to go into specifics or spoilers since this is a relatively new show, and I want you guys to watch it so bad if you haven't. But Vax has such an amazing journey that he goes on and is still navigating as of the latest season finale. And again, a large part of that is because of O'Brien and Matt Mercer's work in the original campaign. I am not one to cry in general, especially at films or series, but there were a couple moments where the actor just literally pours his entire soul and every emotion in his body into his words, and I couldn't help but tear up a couple times. The Sunken Tomb episodes. That's all I'll say about that. Critical Role recently announced that there is a Mighty Nine show in the works as well, which I have been watching Campaign 2 in preparation for. Lo and behold, while I also love all of the characters for that, Liam's character Caleb has currently nestled his way into being one of my favorites, and just from what I've watched so far, I can't wait to see what he does for that series. So, from a new critter, I can admit that I am obsessed.
Well, tomorrow evening, they will light the night sky with these lanterns. You will act as my guide, take me to these lanterns, and return me home safely. Then, and only then, will I return your satchel to you. That is my deal.
Come on, I had to have at least one Disney princess on here. And I think a lot of people would agree that Mandy Moore as Rapunzel is a pretty solid choice. Obviously, I had a hard time narrowing down this list in general, but when I was considering princesses, it was between either Moore or Ming-Na Wen as Mulan. Both films are, surprise surprise, also in my top 10 Disney movies, with these two being my favorite Disney princesses. And while I love both just about equally, I had to give Moore the extra point for singing the part as well. Broadway star Lea Salonga provided Mulan's singing voice, with Wen providing the dialogue. And while this doesn't make her performance any less fantastic or even lesser than Moore's, I just love Rapunzel's singing voice so much. I believe Mandy Moore was just made to be in a traditional Disney fairy tale. Her voice just carries all the innocence and optimism of the earlier princesses while also having a darker side to it in that rather than being a mark of the times like Snow White and Aurora, she was locked away from the world for her entire childhood. You definitely see this nuanced range she brings to Rapunzel much better in the series, which please God go watch that too if you haven't. Her and Zachary Levi have top-notch, absolutely golden romantic chemistry, which, yay, another slightly iffy actor, but I can at least acknowledge the performance is good. One of my core memories is seeing I See the Light in theaters when I was 11 and being absolutely enraptured, and it is still my favorite Disney song to this day. The whole soundtrack is among one of the studio and Alan Menken's best, and of course a large part of its success is due to the sheer vocal talent of its star. The show, likewise, is able to give her so many more great songs in addition to much more character development beyond the film, which is why it definitely played a huge part in my decision. All in all, Moore is certainly a royal pick.
Been a long time. Blizzard of 68, I believe. Easter Sunday, wasn't it?
Bunny! You're not still mad about that, are you?
Yes. But this is about something else.
Hugh Jackman as the Easter Bunny from Rise of the Guardians. This is not helping my case. This film has always had a special place in my heart, and I absolutely love its interpretation of all the figures and folklore surrounding the holidays. All of the actors do such an incredible job giving unique and engaging performances as all of the mythical figures, with Hugh Jackman being the best, in my opinion, giving us a completely new crocodile bunny-like character. Yeah, see what I did? By the way, did you know that while everyone just calls him Bunny in the film, his canonical full name is E. Astor Bunnymund? I found that while looking up stuff for this and actually cackled out loud. Honestly, lowered the badass meter just a little bit. What's also funny is that so many people, myself included, like to watch this movie around Christmas because of Jack Frost and there being so much snow, completely forgetting that this story takes place around Easter. And this actually gives Jackman more material to play with, as Bunny actively and brutally has his holiday and reality literally and figuratively smashed to complete pieces. The actor is able to effortlessly flow from being snappy and intimidating to soft and vulnerable, and his Australian accent just makes all of the comebacks and one-liners all the better. I definitely cannot imagine anyone else stepping into this role, much less doing such a spectacular job. The only thing that could have made it better is if he sang.
Ladies and gents, this is the moment you've waited for.
I want a Rise of the Guardians musical on my desk tomorrow, do you hear me?
My name is Keith. I'm so emo. We'll get through this if we work together. We're a team. Look at me! I'm Lance! Hey, is that a cute girl over there? I don't feel good. Paladins, please. We must defeat Zarkon. Blah, blah, blah. Crazy words. Mustache.
Bex Taylor-KLAUS as Pidge from Voltron Legendary Defender. Our last female character on the list, though I've seen many interpret her as non-binary like her actor, which I can definitely see. A she-they queen, as they say. And let's get this out of the way. Yes, this show has problems. Major ones, in fact. Still, I don't think those bad things should undermine the really good things about it, from the very solid first seasons to things in the flawed later ones that I actually really liked. One of the things, though, that was always consistent, no matter what, was the absolutely stellar voice acting. Like, God, what a stacked cast. Josh Keaton, Kimberly Brooks, Rhys Darby, Stephen Yeun, Jeremy Shada, Tyler Labine, and of course, you know my favorite. And it may or may not be slightly because Pidge just happens to be my favorite paladin as well. Fittingly, Taylor-KLAUS's voice is so deliciously ambiguous that they would have been the best fit for the Green Paladin whether she was a girl or boy like in the previous iterations. And it works great for her cover at the beginning of the series. Additionally, the actor brings the perfect amount of nerdy enthusiasm and sincerity that just helps Katie warm her way into our hearts, while also making her a snarky and sometimes cocky badass that makes us evil genius laugh along with her. They are another example of an actor pulling effortless tears from my otherwise unbothered face. I remember watching the reunion episode of season 4 and just shaking with emotion when she broke down in front of Matt's grave. Pidge, in my opinion, is the heart of Voltron, both the show and the team, and I think a large part of that is thanks to Taylor-KLAUS. Some people might call me cringe for this pick and that I still think about this show, but like I said, I like to focus on the positives and the good things about art, and I still think there are great things about this series to enjoy, their performance being only one of many.
I wanted to say that you're gonna hear some bad things about me, and some of them are true. But trust me, everything I've worked for, everything I care about, it's all for this family.
Mabel, what if he's lying?
Look into my eyes, Mabel. You really think I'm a bad guy?
He's lying!
And finally, Alex Hirsch as Stan Pines from Gravity Falls. Talk about a performance and character that really tackled my heart from out of nowhere. HIRSCH's relationship to Stan is along the same lines as Liam O'Brien's to Vax, in that, being the creator of the series, he also played a big part in developing Stan as a character in addition to portraying him vocally. At the beginning of the show, I really enjoyed Dipper and Mabel's Grunkle, and the actor's comedic timing and delivery is some of the best I've ever seen, having me dying with laughter nearly every episode. However, it wasn't until the second season when things got super chaotic and we got to see so many different parts of Stan that really cemented the performance and character as one of my favorites ever. With the show being over a decade old now, I normally wouldn't be too reserved about spoilers, but this series has so many mysteries and turns, especially in regards to Stan, that I am not going to get too detailed for the sake of those who haven't seen it, which, if you haven't, what the fuck is wrong with you? Not What He Seems is my favorite episode of the show, if that tells you anything. What can I say? I'm a sucker for the hard, emotionally stunted characters who grow softer and vulnerable as time goes on. In addition to Stan, HIRSCH also plays Sus, McGucket, and Bill Cipher, the latter being so close to making this list because, Christ, what a horrifying villain. My heart couldn't betray the old man, though. Man, now I wish I had my own badass con man tourist trap great uncle. No, mine are dead though, but I guess that's fine because I have this awesome character to come back to. Lists like this are always so hard to make because all of these stories and these characters, these actors, these performances are so widely different from each other that it really is so difficult to pin them against each other and rank them in any definitive manner. I could tell you if I actually had to place them like 10th place, 9th place, 8th place, these videos would have never been made. I couldn't decide. And, you know, probably within the next month or so, I'll see another actor and another performance that'll worm its way into my heart and my list will just change, so take this with a grain of salt. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed my picks and also agree that they are incredible, even if they weren't your own personal faves. And speaking of which, please let me know what your favorite Western animation performances are in the comments. I would love to hear about them. Until then, and until the next video, whether that be Japanese performance lists or whatever else it happens to be, whatever pops into my brain, I hope that all of you are staying safe, happy, and healthy, and that you have a wonderful day. Yeah, goodbye.